Thank you, Renae, for joining me today. It's taken us just a few minutes to get set up here, so I was wondering if we could maybe just start. If you want to just introduce yourself to us a little bit, let us know how we came to meet.
Yeah, my name's Renae Brandt, and I started working downtown with Blakely Enterprises in 2013. And at that time, my boss, Chris Blakely, had bought the Dixon building and began renovating it. And so I've helped with those renovations and really enjoy seeing the old buildings become new again. And about 2015 is when I started being active with the Downtown Association.
Okay. And so what? So 2015, you're about 3 years in now. I think I heard that it's 3-year terms for the Downtown Association.
I'm 1 year on being on the board, so I have 2 years left.
Oh, okay. Do you, a board member? What I guess is there a capacity that you?
I am the secretary, so I keep all the notes and submit them for the meeting minutes.
Okay, very cool. And that's where we're sitting right now. We're actually sitting in the Dixon building.
Yes.
Is that right?
And we're in the upstairs. We are one of the only ones that have the upstairs occupied.
Okay.
So it's pretty neat to have an upstairs redone and putting it back into use and using that space.
Yeah, and you gave me a tour as we were getting ready to get set up here. It's you guys have done a lot of improvements to the area. It's kind of a hidden gem. You wouldn't, and well, now you maybe would, because I know you guys just got that new sign put up outside, and then I think some new awnings out there as well.
We did, and we did strategically make the gable of our canopy come out over our entrance because a lot of people just don't expect there to be office space upstairs.
Right.
So so hopefully we'll be able to be found a little easier now that we have the sign and the canopy up.
Yeah, and that looks really good. I mean, it really, and I think that maybe that's representative of what has gone on downtown so far with the removal of the awnings that have been there. To see you guys turn it so quick to have the renovation. I don't think it's done for you guys necessarily. But
we aren't 100% done. We're getting close. We do have some brickwork or some stuff. We have brick removed and a new tile put up that looks like the granite tile that was original.
Oh, really?
So we're really excited for that. And then we do have some gold leaf signs that we're going to put on our upper windows.
Wow.
Kind of like the traditional gold leaf signs that you would have seen 50, 60 years ago.
Wow.
So we are excited to finish that project and hope to have that done here around June.
Really?
So coming up.
Very cool. Very cool. So you've been with the Downtown Association for 3 years. You've been on the board now for a year.
Yeah. So I just started as a member and would just go to their meetings. At the meetings, we discuss what's going on, events, things that would be important to know. Okay. And really with the recent canopy removal, it's really been helpful just to stay on top of everything that's going on.
And I think that, as I submitted my questions to you, my first question was trees, right? Which was why did we remove the trees? And I say that a little bit tongue in cheek because, when the renovation first started down here, of course, as this is going to be on social media and on the podcast, that some people with very strong opinions were opining about the tree removal. And I thought that it was interesting. That's why I wanted to ask you and maybe get, not just ask you necessarily, but get some more insight to it. Because I think a lot of people felt like that was we're just going to take the trees down and then we're done.
Yeah.
And so I think there's more to it though.
There is, and there's a couple parts to it actually. And I was disappointed when I heard that the trees had to come out too, because I didn't realize that was going to have to happen. Right. But the first part was that the canopies had asbestos. Oh. And so to safely remove them, they kind of had to be removed in one chunk and then disassembled off in a different area. Dang. And so in order to do that, they had to use a crane to lift the decks off the canopies.
Oh, man.
And the trees were in the way to be able to safely lift those decks off. Yeah. So that was one big part. And then the other one, which most people don't know, and I didn't know at first either, but a lot of our utilities run under the sidewalks instead of in the alleys. And we've kind of run into a few problems where some of those tree roots have gotten into those utilities and caused a significant amount of damage to some areas. So that was another area that was concerned with those trees.
Wow.
Hopefully, We've been told that there's plans to do trees again, probably in a different spot and probably a different type, just like a more ornamental.
There are some plans for, I don't know if you call it beautification or some greenery or something like that.
There is, and it might be a little bit down the road. I'm not 100% sure because we do have to get some sidewalks and roads addressed before we could really plant those. For the short term, we're going to try to put some planters on there, on the tree stumps and flowers, and just kind of make it look a little better and it brings some nature back into the area.
Yeah. Okay. And, so this is the second conversation I've had with somebody on this podcast about the downtown. And I'd mentioned it. I'd done just a real quick video yesterday, but the reason that these have been it's the same topic, talking to two different people at this point about it, is because I do think it, in my point of view, with my little bit of knowledge about, economics or downtowns or anything like that, is that I think it's pretty important to what the next 5 or 10 or 20 years looks like for the local economy.
Yeah, the economic health for downtown is really important to our city as a whole and their economy, because we are largely, independent businesses. Yep. And that makes up your entrepreneurs, the people that give back to your community the most. Yep. Your shop, small, local people really are the ones helping out your soccer teams, donating to your schools. Yeah. So that having a strong downtown does more than just enhance downtown. It helps in all other areas. A very important part of, again, what's going to happen in the next 5-10 years. And so it's been a process for you guys to make this actually happen. I've heard that there's been discussions for a couple decades now. Yeah, I was going to say, I think it dates back about 20 years. Wow. I believe it was initially brought up in 94.
Holy cow.
So it's been an issue, and it's not just aesthetics either. A lot of people think we're taking down canopies to put up our own awnings. It's kind of the same thing. But really, the canopies caused some problems. They caused water to get into the buildings. Made it hard to make any repairs because they were so close. I mean, some of them were touching the buildings and some of them were just inches. So to get in there and actually be able to repair, we weren't able to do that. It limited signage. Actually, the city had coded against it because they were trying to give kind of that mall feel in the 70s. So signs were limited to what you could put on the canopy. You couldn't actually put them on your building. Oh, okay. And that made it really difficult, especially for the businesses in the middle. If you were on a corner lot, you could use that corner side to get some signage. Mm-hmm. But if you're in the middle, a lot of times it just appeared that they were kind of lost.
Well, and so I bring that up about the length of time that it's been in discussion. I've heard, and I'll maybe try to speak with her about this as well, as Megan McGowan played a pretty big part in making this really come to fruition.
Yeah, she was really the one kind of offering us suggestions, telling us the best ways to go about trying to get them down. Mm-hmm. Very knowledgeable, has helped out Sydney and, been helping out our community as well. Getting grants for us, doing all sorts of work to really help us out in other ways.
Well, and so then with kind of that, it's not, I'm going to say, but the behind the scenes discussions that take place and all the things that go on behind the scenes to make it happen. And then boom, all of a sudden within a 2-week span, awnings are gone, trees are gone. And so for the local, the non in touch with that depth of detail individual, including myself, you see that kind of happen overnight, right? And I know there were some rumblings, but
it did. Once they started the process, it went really fast. Yeah. But the behind the scenes, it was really a lot of work on anybody in downtown that was supportive. They talked to their council members. They wrote letters. Wow. There was a petition. I mean, there was all sorts of work going in. Another thing too that people don't realize about the canopies, which I find is important, because I work with investing back into the downtown with the buildings. None of the buildings were able to get historically registered because of the canopies on this street. And this street encompasses the highest percentage of historic buildings in the town. But the canopies altered the front of the facade to the extent that they wouldn't allow them to be historically registered. And that's really important from an investment standpoint and from looking at investors to invest in your community, because you're able to get grants that aren't eligible if you're not historically registered.
So the highest percentage of historically possibly registered, I don't know if that's the way to put it, buildings is located in the downtown area.
Yep, it's actually from Jeffers to Bailey, 4th to 6th is the most highly concentrated amount of historic buildings. So
that's a pretty big deal. And
it is
because so had they have stayed up, the ability to get them registered as a historical building would be unavailable.
Yes, and actually, I know they're working on making it a historic district, which is really beneficial because then each building doesn't have to go through the process of getting registered. Wow. But that has not been a possibility until now.
Wow.
So that's really exciting, and we're hoping that can come through, that we can become a historic district.
And then I bring up the kind of the behind the scenes, then all of a sudden it's an overnight deal. I bring that up because I think that maybe there needs to be some tempered expectation, because the behind the scenes is still going on, and people see just what it is now. And so I think that, again, in some future period, there's going to be another overnight thing that occurs, whether it's another improvement to downtown or
I believe what the next thing you'll see is one building or two buildings that have been redone, kind of like the Dixon building. Many of them have already got plans. They've already got approved for the grant. They're just kind of in line. Okay. We have construction season's just starting. It's been winter, and we had plenty of delays because we had a few extra snowstorms. Yeah. So, and then I don't know if we just call them windstorms, but we had some wind that's made some delays. So there is definitely going to be some really cool things happening, because I've seen some of the plans and the ideas people have, and the signs and the canopies, and just it's going to be really neat. But it is going to take some time, mainly because North Platte is a small community and we don't have a ton of sign companies and a ton of window and glass companies. There's a little bit limited, so we're kind of, everybody's in line. Yeah,
very cool. And so probably over the summer, I'm sure we'll see some additional.
Yes.
But a lot of that progress is going to come from individual building owners.
Yeah. Right? So there's some incentive with a grant that they will match up to $15,000.
Wow.
Which is excellent, because there is quite a bit of repair that needs done on a lot of these old buildings. And this grant doesn't just cover downtown on the bricks. It covers a large part of downtown. Wow. It's actually 1st Street to 3rd Street, 1st Street to 13th Street.
Oh my goodness.
And Vine to Walnut.
Holy cow, that's a big chunk of North Platte there.
Yeah, so the criteria is your building needs to be over 50 years old.
Okay.
And it also needs to be commercial. But it encompasses a really large chunk, and I would encourage any businesses that need windows, new signs, masonry work to really look into getting that.
Who would they get in touch with to become a part of that?
To get the application, you would go to the City Hall, and it's the Planning and Zoning Committee.
Okay.
And they will give you the application. You fill it out. It's actually not too intense. You do need to have a detailed list of your ideas and your plans. You do need to have pictures of the building, of what it used to look like, if you can find them. And your plans need to be relevant. They can't cover up existing architecture, so you won't be able to paint a brick building. But you could paint windows, or you could paint a stucco building if it's already that way. But so there's a few limitations as far as being historically accurate, but very great to do some updates.
Really? This grant that's currently out there, is there an expiration to someone getting, or is it just kind of until?
Well, there's $475,000 available in total dollars. So it's kind of first come, first serve. So once the money's out, it is out. Okay. Or it's 18 months. So after 18 months, it's no longer available.
And so that clock's ticking on that.
Yeah. So you got a good amount of time left, but you might want to start getting some contractors in to give you some estimates and some bids.
Wow, and so that's really, and maybe again, I hadn't caught it. I know it's probably been out there, but if I can understand this correctly, so there's grant money out there right now for, see if I can remember this, from 1st to 13th.
1st to 13th.
And Vine to
Walnut. Yes.
So any business owner or any building owner that is in there needs to probably really pay attention to this, because I mean, it's going to go away. The grant money is probably going to be used up, and or the time frame to be able to apply is going to go.
And I think it's going to be the grant money is going to get used up, because there's already been, I know of about 10 people that have already been approved. And you do need to be approved before you start doing the actual work.
Sure. Okay.
But it's, you meet with the North Platte Historic Commission, show them your plans, and then they go over with you. They're really great to work with. They offer great ideas, and we just had a really pleasant experience with them. So many of the businesses, they're really set on improving downtown, giving the perception better. I know sometimes the perception down here is that it's old, maybe kind of scary, and that's what we really want to change, that perception, make it more of like that historic, comfortable feel that we used to have, and make it inviting. And I think people will really see that coming up with these new ideas that the buildings owners will be doing.
And, you know, I've been known to be very optimistic in looking at the bright side of things, but when I first saw it, I loved it. I get it that there's some unfinished parts of the buildings that, you know, maybe the awnings had been close to and maybe done some damage to, but just the feeling of openness that it created. And I had mentioned to some others that when you get inside the the businesses, it changes the feel inside, because it's lightened it up significantly. It's brought more sunlight in, obviously, and it's just, I mean, I think as it is right now, it's a vast improvement for what it was. Is it perfect? Obviously not, because there needs to be some aesthetic repair done. Because I found some pictures as I was getting ready to do this. I was looking up some pictures of downtown, and just, and I'll put this up in the video, but you put them side by side today, and it just looks so cramped. And I know we joked about the trees, but and while maybe, you know, it was pretty, and they would bloom, and, you know, we put Christmas lights on them, and but man, when you put those pictures side by side, it's just a totally different downtown area.
Yeah, and I've looked at many of the downtowns, and that's kind of what I would like to see it become again. You know, just revitalize it back to like what it was.
Yeah.
Because it was so many people downtown. You always see pictures. There's just cars. There's people walking. All sorts of unique signage. None of the buildings looked the same. They were all very unique, and I did feel like the canopies, you know, kind of hindered that visibility, and kind of made them look very much uniform, very much the same.
You know, we'd recently gone to Nashville, to a mall, right? And I was told it was one of the biggest malls in the country. And I mean, it was hopping in there. It was every single shop you could find. But if you're not in Nashville, Tennessee, or if you're not in Denver, Colorado, I mean, you can't even say it for Omaha, but, you know, malls, and I hate to bring up the touchy subject, but malls have been struggling for some time. And it's not the malls that are struggling, it's the businesses that are trying to make their way in the malls. And I think that, you know, that's why this downtown is so important, is because anywhere else you go, if you go to Grand Island or Kearney or even Omaha or Gretna, I know I've stopped at Gretna a couple times, or even Denver, most of the shopping experiences are in a very similar format as what our downtown looks like today.
Yes.
It's outdoors. You got one shop next to each other. It's not this, you know, and maybe that mall in Nashville is going to go away at some point because they had a Herberger's there, and you know, enough. It doesn't matter how successful a mall is if enough businesses go out in it, you know, and there's no one to take their place. So I think that's why, because that hurts our economy. When
it does, and the malls are a little bit different than downtowns in that the malls rely on big business, and downtowns are generally your small business owners and your community business owners. And so you're always going to have people in your community that want to be entrepreneurs, that want to have their own business. And that's usually where you find them, is their downtowns. So we do offer a little bit different feel than the malls.
Yeah.
In the mall, I feel for them because it's nothing that they did.
Right.
It's just business for retail is struggling right now.
It is.
So,
I mean, and we have a brick and mortar location, and I think most of what you guys do here at Blakely is more digital, I think. Right?
Yes.
And
yeah.
So, I have some concern, for what we do, and even on the appliance repair side for what we do, everything you need in the palm of your hand with your phone, so you could probably go figure it out. And so there's a lot of demand on businesses, but I really like that point that you make about most of what you're finding in the downtowns and not just here, but in most downtowns is the local entrepreneurs
yes.
and the local business owners that are, kind of bringing that local touch to.
And I do feel the trend right now, where it used to be like the big box stores. Yep. Now people are kind of wanting to get back to like unique and simple, and that's usually what your small shops can offer is stuff that's catered to you.
Yeah, and that's funny you bring that up. I heard a while ago, because I try to stay in tune with, especially for my industries that I'm in, and I don't know the dates, but 20, 30 years ago, when this big box concept came out and all these major department stores were rolling across the country and they were really impacting small businesses started to try to design their brick and mortar stores to look more like a big box store. That's
when we got our canopies. It was to mimic a mall feel. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
And so, but then, maybe there was this anti-corporate, anti-big box, whatever, maybe in the 80s, 90s that we kind of started feeling like as consumers, we were getting treated like numbers instead of actual like paying customers. And so then it was interesting because then I think a shift took place where these big box stores tried to begin renovating their spaces and their interactions to feel like a small business.
Yeah, it reminds me of like Starbucks, or like your coffee shops to try to kind of look and feel more like your small town coffee shop. And
so I do think that there is a shift, and like you said that how the shift doesn't happen overnight, but it has been happening, I think, to where more personalized, more very specific to this area. You don't just dump in a product line and say, hey, this is working out in the East Coast or the West Coast, so now it's going to work here. Yeah,
and the other shift would be online, which is difficult for any kind of shop to compete with. So here it's like you have to offer the experience to get them into your store, to get them to want to come shop with you. And I think the downtowns can do that, and I think we're working towards being able to do that a little bit better.
And just the other day, I believe the Bulletin had they had like their 15-year anniversary of being in print or something like that, and mentioned that at that time they had talked about some of the articles that they had done at that time, and there was like this level of excitement of all the renovation going on with North Platte. I think maybe Menards had just come, maybe the distribution center had just come, and it was like this enthusiasm and energy. And so it was interesting to me when I saw that, because I think everything's kind of cyclical, and we go through our seasons of change, and we go through seasons of vast improvement, and then not necessarily decline, but I think that's just the way of life is, you take 3 steps forward and 2 steps back. We all personally know that, but for some reason we have a different expectation of our businesses or of our cities or of our state, that it should just be always 2 steps forward.
Yes, and I do believe with downtown, I don't know if I should use the word stagnant, but it kind of remained the same.
Yep.
There wasn't many updates. There wasn't many new investors. Yep. And I do feel like there's an excitement around it now where people have seen, okay, this can be done, and they want to do that, and they want to invest, and they want to do something neat and be part of downtown. I appreciate you talking to me, and I love talking about downtown and encouraging people to come check it out and see what's going on. So I appreciate you talking to me.
Yeah, no, thank you for joining me today, Renae. I appreciate you taking your time out. So as always, everybody, I really appreciate you listening, and hope you enjoyed this interview, and make sure you stay tuned for more to come. Thanks as always.